So structure is pretty much the same as always. I would suggest you just follow the standard approach of body paragraph 1, 2, 3, and within that you're making a comparison only in very small phrases like whereas or by contrast, but you're including both texts in each paragraph. Alternatively, to be flexible, if there are 5 texts, you might like to do 5 paragraphs depending on how you do it, or if you could group the arguments in some way around 5 key arguments or key themes or key ideas, that's another approach you could take. But just as a general rule, follow the standard essay structure, but it may be necessary to deviate from that if you provide it with multiple texts. Alright, so let's talk structure specifics. So for the intro, we have this very horrible but very useful acronym, which is form, contention, context, purpose and positioning, issues and implications, arguments, author, audience, language features, techniques, stakeholders, style, and tonal shifts. So this isn't a structure per se, but it is a tick sheet that you should be crossing off as you do it. You should be able to hit 3 or 4 of these in each sentence, and the more you can combine these techniques within one sentence, the better it will be, because your job in the introduction is to connect and make links between these multiple things. So you might say, the author is a teacher and their 3 arguments are set out in a very clear sequential manner. And then you could connect that by saying, as a teacher, they probably are used to explaining things as clearly as possible. You might link, say, language features, so a lot of rhetorical questions are used, which fits well with the stakeholders, a stakeholder being a group who is interested in a certain issue. So the rhetorical questions are especially effective to the stakeholders, to one of the key stakeholder groups in this, which is teenagers. So they've kept the arguments simple and clearly signposted with question marks in an attempt to position the readers to blah, 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 blah. So your job is to not only tick these things off, but try and get them within the one sentence or clause as much as possible, as that will really encourage you to link them up and to be showing how they connect to one another. Alright, body paragraph. Basically the core thing you need to remember is AATE, twice, and a link. So argument, audience, technique, effect, argument, audience, technique, effect, link. So that's the core. I would always put a topic sentence in as well, though I've listed as optional. That's not a great idea. You should provide the viewpoints of the 2 texts at the beginning, so you can sort of clearly lead into them once they shift from one text to the other within the body paragraph. So then it becomes even more optional on the left-hand side. If you can make an overall comparative sentence if you want, but again, the key isn't really comparison, so it's not essential. And if you really feel confident, you could put in a judgment as well, comparing the effectiveness of the argument you've described and the techniques they've used in isolation or in comparison. And then of course you make a linking sentence that links back to introduction, explains why, and also indicates what might be coming next. Conclusion is very easy. You just summarize the points that you've made. You use flap C, so form, language, audience, purpose, context. So it's a mini version of the introduction, of course. Just make sure you refer to at least each of those things, and the more you link it, of course, the better you're doing, and then you just say firstly, secondly, thirdly in a basic overall statement. Alright, so if you need more detail, kind of like a sentence by sentence breakdown, your introduction, you would summarize the first text and talk about as many of these things as you can: form, audience, author, context. Then you do the same for text 2, and if you like, you could draw a rough comparison, like text 1 focuses on these factors and has this opinion on the argument, whereas text 2 focuses on these factors, and the thing, you just draw a rough comparison for later analysis. This would be something as simple as text 1 agrees with the statement, text 2 disagrees, text 1 focuses on these core aspects, and text 2 focuses on these core aspects. So you're being quite precise, and the comparison is simply one way for you to outline your arguments. So 4 and 5, you're talking about the context and sort of the background, and then you're talking about word choice and connotations. So what types of words are used and to what effect, and what are the connotations of these. Then you're talking about style, so the way that the audience is positioned, and you're going to try and avoid using the word audience, but rather you're going to try and use really specific pronouns. So you might say like children under 12, or adult males or something like that. And then you do the same for the other, then you simply say firstly, secondly, thirdly, and this all goes back to your plan. So you've planned out how you're going to break down the arguments and how you're going to approach them, and then you give us an overall statement. Again, body paragraph, sentence by sentence, if you need that, it's there. You're basically going through text 1 and text 2 and doing your A, T, E, E, and then you're providing an overall or a judgment statement if you feel confident and you have time, and then you're doing a linking sentence, which is of course very important. Your conclusion, if again, sentence by sentence, summarize text 1 and 2, refer to form, language, audience, purpose and context of each text, and compare if you feel the need with a simple connective, such as therefore, likewise, in addition, some connective phrase like that. Then you summarize the first argument you talked about and the techniques used by each, second, third, likewise techniques there, and then